again, I don't want to be in a situation where I could have helped somebody and then not have helped them. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think that the education may be a little bit lacking. It's getting better with us, the next generation coming up, but there's still a lot. Like I still have a lot of work left to do. Like I might have insured you, but what about your mom and dad? Can you take the financial hit of losing your mom and dad? Our parents, because I couldn't, and that was a big struggle. My dad did not want life insurance. He did not want it. He was so against it. He didn't really he never said why, but he just did not want to do it. So it took me months, and I finally had it. I told him, "Hey, Dad, you know what? I don't know what your deal is, but if you pass away, I'm the oldest of four, and I'm, first generation. I'm the one that takes care of the paperwork for everything."
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Leo Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Munoz, and on today's episode, I had the pleasure to speak with Jennifer Yanez, a DACA recipient born in Mexico and a licensed agent with New York Life Insurance Company. Jennifer has been in the life insurance industry for over 3 years now, and throughout the episode, she helps us learn more about the different types of life insurance options, the myths about life insurance, the red flags to look out for when shopping for life insurance, if immigrants qualify for life insurance, and much more coming up right now.
Yeah, so my name is Jennifer Yanez. I, work in the life insurance industry. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I'm a DACA recipient, born in Mexico, raised in the Dallas area, so in Frisco, Texas, which is 30 minutes north of Dallas. And then I recently moved to Florida. So now I'm living in Florida, working from home. I don't know if I would have made the move pre-COVID just because I was so against Zoom before, and now I love it. So everything I do is virtual. I work with people all over the country. I do have to get licensed in the states that I work in, but if the potential is there, if someone really needs my help, then I just get the license and no big deal. But right now I think I'm licensed in about maybe 10 states. So no issues with that, and virtual work. So it's really easy to just meet with everybody and just help anybody that needs it. Yeah.
Right. Do you have to pay for your licenses in every state?
Yes.
You
So it can vary. Like Texas, my company will pay for it because I'm still working based out of Texas. So I've got that one covered. I have to renew, but right now I have California. I just applied for Florida, Illinois, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Colorado. So I've got a few.
Wow.
And the prices range all over the place. So some are $30 and some are $200. So that's why.
Wow, from 30 to 200.
Yeah. South Carolina was the one that threw me off because it was $200 to apply. No big deal. Paid for it. And then they came back and they were telling me that the state wanted another $200 for me. So it was, pretty bummed out. I didn't expect South Carolina to be the big one out of pocket cost, but it was no big deal. It was worth it. The client I have out there now is one of my best clients. I love her so much. She's so sweet. So it's totally worth getting that license. Yeah. Anything is worth it, really, if I'm helping somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us, like, career-wise, just why'd you choose to go down the life insurance path out of any other career path that you could choose, right? Or were you always eyeing life insurance, or was it just kind of something that you wanted to do later on?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't a kid saying I want to be a life insurance agent when I grow up, but I honestly had no idea what life insurance even was until I started working here. I didn't know that this was a type of insurance that was out there. So I definitely, this is not where I thought I would end up. So initially I wanted to end up in graphic design, but as a DACA recipient, and especially back then, it's kind of hard to pay for school. So I started going to school. I was working to pay for school at the time. And so I started working in retail. And then I just got ahead of myself within the retail industry. They started offering me promotions and the money sounded great. So I kind of put school on the back burner as I went full time in management within retail. So I did that for some time. I eventually had my own store and, was making pretty good money. I changed companies, and that's kind of when this happened 3 years ago. So my sister's a Marine. I wanted to go see her graduate, and the holidays were coming up, Black Friday was coming up. So it just felt like a lot was going on that I didn't really have the flexibility for, which really bothered me. In retail, you work holidays, you work weekends, you work late nights. So I found myself working till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, coming back at 6 or 7. And it was just so much. I was tired, like physically drained and tired. And it just happened to be that my now boss walked into one of my stores and we just got to talking, and he said, "Hey, if you're ever looking to do anything else, let me know." He gave me his card, and I looked at the company that night, New York Life, and on Glassdoor, it seemed pretty good. Everything's kind of mixed on Glassdoor, but it looked like there was potential. So
you want to tell people what Glassdoor is? Some probably don't know.
Yeah. So Glassdoor is a website where you can go in and you can actually look up like the job that you're looking into or positions or whatever the case may be, and it'll tell you reviews or potential pay or benefits or anything like that. So any job that you're looking into, you can go and check it out.
No, it's a great place to go to just to check out what kind of like job you want to if you want to take up like a job offer. And I don't know if they have salary comparisons on there, but that's other than
I don't know about salary comparisons, but it'll give you a good range of the positions within the companies and what they're getting paid. So the pay looked great.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? I want to look into this. I was so tired at the point. And so we interviewed. It was a month of interviewing, and then they finally extended the opportunity my way. So I said, sure, I don't have anything to lose. So I kind of just went for it. I mean, I was in a really great place where, somewhat of a great place, I guess, where I had recently moved back in with my parents. So money wasn't a huge stressor for me. So I had the opportunity to take, just explore other options out there, which was really good because, it worked out. It's working out anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a ton of learning. I've loved everything. Like I said, before I started working here, I didn't even know what this was. I kept asking my boss, but what am I doing? Like, what is this? What does this mean? What am I selling? What am I offering? How much does it cost? And he was like, it depends. And so now I go back and realize the types of questions I was asking are so difficult to answer because it really does depend. But again, so much information that I've learned. The company's been great. They have a really amazing training program. It's about 3 years long. But it's always, they're always continuing to educate us, and everything's always evolving within the industry. So especially with COVID, we had a pandemic that's definitely, affecting the life insurance industry. So it's been great. It was a really great move. I'm glad that I made that move.
So why do you think, like, let's just talk about some of those things that you asked, like it depends, right? Like, why does it depend on different variables when it comes to life insurance, and why is it so like confusing? Like that's when I first researched like life insurance, you get a lot of information. It's like information overload, and it's just like, how do you know where to look and why you should even look for it?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I think that it depends. It's just because there's so many ways and so many options to go about it. So there are two major ways that I work with clients. One, either it's a budget-based scenario, so where you have a budget in mind and you really can't spend more than $30, $40, $50 per month, and we just have to give you what you can get with that money. And it's pretty easy because we know how much it's costing you, how much you want to pay. And then the needs-based approach. So somebody that just wants to make sure that a policy accomplishes what they want it to accomplish, like paying off their house, sending the kids to college, replacing their income, paying off any debt, covering their final expenses, and then they're okay with the cost of whatever the life insurance is going to cost, as long as it takes care of all of these things. So those are the two different ways to go about it, which is why it depends. Now we look into the types of policies that we're looking at, whether it's a term policy, a permanent policy, how long we want the policy to be, how old you are. Life insurance is based around age and health. So the younger you are, the less expensive it's going to be. The healthier you are probably as well. So those are all kind of factors that are weighed in within the cost of that product, because there's so many variables that affect that cost.
Yeah, let's talk about it since you brought it up about the types of life insurance. The ones that I'm sure people are aware of are like whole and term, I'm sure. So would you want to go over like what those are and the benefits and cons? And like, I'm sure you're aware, like in the personal finance community, people hate whole life insurance and then lean more towards term life. Maybe you could talk about like why that is as well and what your opinion is on that.
Yeah. So people always come and ask me, like, either they're coming to me saying, I just want term, or they come to me saying, I just want permanent, or they want, maybe they're confused. They don't know which one to pick. And they ask me which one is the best, like, which one would you recommend? And my answer is always that I don't have a favorite. Like, they each have their own benefits and they might not both be for everybody. Because if somebody comes to me and says, I have a $30 budget, I'm not going to offer them permanent because they can't afford it. And it would just be unfair of me to say, hey, stretch your dollars and get this permanent product, this whole life policy, when it's not going to go a long way, because permanent is really expensive and you can only buy so much. Like, you can't buy $1 million in a whole life policy. It's going to cost you $1,000 per month. So it's not fair for me to say, hey, these $30, buy $30,000 in insurance with a permanent policy, because that's not fair. That's not going to pay for their house or supplement their income or send the kids to college, but they could probably get $500,000 in a term policy, kind of just making up numbers here. Terms is there. It's kind of like our car insurance policy. So it's there for a certain amount of time. If something happens to you, you're covered. If not, that's it. You have to renew the policy, except they're much longer term. So it can be anywhere from 10 to 15, 20, 30 years, maybe even 40 years at some companies, but they're there for that set amount of time. And that's it. You're covered if you pass away within the first 20 years of the term policy. And then, 20 years later, when it expires, you have to decide whether you're going to get a new one, whether you're not going to have insurance. Maybe you did get some permanent on the side and you still have insurance, so you don't have to worry about getting any more insurance at that point. But that's kind of where the permanent comes into place. For some people, it does make sense to get a large amount, when maybe in estate planning, or they've just got a lot of money that they want to set aside somewhere fixed, like a fixed account, and money they don't need for a long time. But that's very rarely. The average situation we run into is people come to me in their 60s or 70s looking for insurance, and they can't get terms because they don't qualify for it anymore. Like, term will only get you so far in life. Eventually you can't even buy it. If you can, you'll be really unhealthy or just older, and it's going to be too expensive. So
can you not buy, sorry to cut you off. Can you not buy term at, I guess, so what I'm getting is you can't buy like term after a certain age, right? So like, what would you say, like 60, 50?
I would 65.
Oh, 60, so after 65, you can't buy term. So like buy it when you're like 50, like for 30 years.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, the company, it's a business. So they know that, at 50, you're going to get
charge more.
Yeah. So it's going to be really expensive, like hundreds of dollars per month if you get approved, because your health is not going to be the same either. So just based on age alone, it's going to be really expensive. Add health to that. If you have, you're pre-diabetic, diabetic, maybe cancer, history of high cholesterol, anything that's going on, it's going to affect that rating. So it's probably going to be more expensive than the average, person your age, just because people in their 50s or 60s typically already have health issues going on. So you can kind of just count on it being a lot more expensive, unaffordable almost. So their only option is permanent. And at that point, that's even more expensive. It's going to be, I think I helped somebody in their 80s and they wanted just something in place, and $10,000 was, I don't know, over $200 per month for $10,000. That's so expensive.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but that's their only option at that age because they can't get term anymore. So something that sometimes works for people is, hey, let's get your $1 million in coverage now at 30 years old, or, 25, 35, whatever, how old you are. And then let's layer it with a permanent policy. It doesn't have to be big, maybe $15,000 or $25,000 to make sure that your final expenses are covered throughout your entire life. Whether if you pass away at 20 and, or 20 years in and you still have your term policy, you get both $1 million and $25,000. Or if you pass away at 80, well, now you still have the $25,000 and you don't have to worry about not having insurance at that point. And I know a lot of people think that, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but they assume that they'll have their retirement accounts in place. Like, well, I don't need anything beyond my term policy because I will have my retirement account. And if I die, my family gets my 401k, right? but the goal is to like live long. So well into your 80s, maybe 90s, that might be shrinking the amount in your 401k. Most people don't have enough money. Like the retirement accounts don't last as long as they think it's going to last. So they're pretty short on money at that age anyway. So you just want to make sure you have something in place and you're not counting on something you don't know where that money is going to go, how long that's going to last you, especially with inflation and all that good stuff. So going back to the initial question, they both have their benefits. I could go on forever about it, but term is really inexpensive and you can get a lot. Permanent, much more expensive. And it comes with these bells and whistles, like the cash value. I wouldn't call it an investment. If somebody's telling you whole life is an investment, run away, go work with somebody else because it's not an investment. And you can build other things into the policy like chronic care. So it's kind of like you can build a disability policy into your whole life policy. So if you get hurt, you actually get early access to the death benefit later, and you can start using that as income because you're disabled or something like that. You have a chronic illness. So you can just build it around your needs, but it's more expensive, but it could be the right pick for somebody. You just have to be in a certain situation.
Right. No, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. So why is it so hard for people to even talk about life insurance, and what policies, I mean, which one should they look for? And also would immigrants qualify is another thing that I would like to know.
Yeah. So the first thing that I always recommend people do is look into the ratings. I know cost is definitely a factor that affects a lot of people, but if you're paying for something, you want to make sure it's going to get paid out. So this isn't really the place to lowball it. I know that there are companies out there that they offer like $1,000 for a penny, things that are policies that are really cheap out there, but these are probably companies that are very new and they're trying to gain a lot of business. So you want to make sure that their rating is a really strong rating. And I'm not talking about rating by like Forbes rated or Investopedia or NerdWallet's top 10 life insurance companies. Like go into their website and look up their financial statistics or financial stability tab, something about finances, about the company, and check their rating by the rating agencies, which is A.M. Best. We've got S&P, Fitch, those ratings. Just like we have a rating, like a credit score, life insurance companies have their credit score. It's the rating, and they're all letters. So sometimes look up the chart to know what the letters mean, but AAA, usually uppercase A's, A++, those are really good ratings. There's a ton of different combinations out there, but I would say rating is the biggest thing because, again, if you're paying for this, you want it to be paid out. You don't want to pay for nothing. So going with a strong company, I always say my biased opinion is to work with New York Life because I work here, but my unbiased opinion is that Northwestern Mutual is the only other competitor on our level. Like we both have perfect scores across the board from every rating agency, which means we know how to handle our finances. We know this basically breaks down how the company is spending their money, how much debt they have, their investments, how much money they have as a company. Can they back out every single policy that they have in place? Do they have enough money to pay all of these death benefits? How many policies do they have in place? So it says a whole lot about the company. And my best advice is work with the best. Like you're not going to be here to make sure that your family gets this money. You're not going to be here to fight for this money if it doesn't get paid out. So always work with the best.
Yeah. Right. And are you at risk then? Like you said, to make sure that they get paid out, right? So are you at risk then if you go with some lower rating life insurance that they're not going to give you your money?
You could be. I would say that you definitely could be, because sometimes these companies don't even have enough money to pay out every single death benefit they have in place. I'm not saying everybody's going to die at the same time, but and if that was,
I mean, at that point, no one would.
Right, we'd be in a crazy place. But you want to make sure that the company is financially stable. So more often than not, those are the types of companies that are going to try to find the smallest reason to not pay out because they can't afford to pay out, millions of dollars every year. So, whatever the reason may be, they'll look into it and try to fight it. I won't name specific companies, but I have seen it in a couple of people I've tried to work with where certain people passed away and it had been months and they still hadn't received the money. So sometimes it can just be a long process. Fortunately, I haven't been in a situation where I had to pay out a death benefit yet, but I'm confident in who I work with because I have seen other agents be in that process, and the death benefit process is paid out fairly quickly. But it's because we are financially stable enough to afford it. We can do that.
Right.
So with New York Life, they'd rather pay the death benefit than go to court to not pay the death benefit. Like, it's just not worth their time to fight. They just pay it out. We have the money to do it, so just pay it. So the smaller companies that aren't as well rated, they might just put up a fight, and you don't want to put up a fight when you have to pay out, the funeral expenses within a week of passing away. Well, your family does. So you may not be in a position to wait around for that money. So rating is the number one thing I say. Make sure you're working with a strong company.
Are you able to see like a company's, like you said, look into their website and finances, but are you able to like see what they hold, how much cash they hold, like on their balance sheet?
Yeah. All of that information is available through a website called Vital Signs. But I don't think it's accessible to the public. I think that your company has to have a membership with Vital Signs.
Okay.
But they should give you a pretty good idea on their website, on the company website. And if you look hard enough, you'll find the report for the previous year. So you can find it if you look hard enough on anybody's website within the life insurance industry. All of that information should be on their website.
Because I feel like that'd be a great like pointer. Like if this company doesn't hold enough to even pay out, like the claims, and like, why do you think do immigrants qualify for life insurance, and if so, should they look towards getting life insurance in your opinion?
So first answer, yes, they do. I would say it's going to depend on the company because per the law they're able to get it, but now companies can come in and set different policies. So some companies allow it, some companies don't allow it. Sometimes it's the agents you're working with that they just may never have dealt with the situation in the past, so they don't know how to go about it. Like maybe you're bringing something up, like kind of like a moot point where you could have gotten it, but now you brought up the fact. But it's always good to make sure anyway, if they're going to pay out. So the answer is yes. Again, the stronger the company, the more likely they are to be able to back up these death benefits, so they'll offer it to undocumented immigrants just because they can, so a company that's smaller and not as well rated, they can't afford to take that loss. So they'll say no. So the answer is yes. You need an I-10. That's the biggest thing that you need. It makes life easy to have one. You can do it without, but the process is just a lot longer, and we don't know if you'll get approved. So an I-10 helps. That's enough, more than enough. And then in regards to identification, a passport. So if they have a valid passport, that works. So no issues there. My parents, I've taken care of them. I've taken care of many other people that are not, don't have legal status in the country, and they've been fine. Now they may get capped around $250,000. That's usually where the limit is, but it just depends. Everything depends because you have to go through underwriting, and the underwriter is going to determine how much you get approved for, or why not, or why. And but in regards to applying as an undocumented immigrant, you can definitely apply.
You're listening to the Leo Podcast. I'm Kevin Munoz. This ad break is brought to you by yours truly. If you enjoy the show and are looking to further show your support, and if you already haven't done so, then head on over to patreon.com/LatinaAmericaneo or my website, latinamericaneo.org, to join the growing Leo podcast community and receive numerous benefits and bonus content for supporting your favorite podcast, because the learning doesn't stop with this episode. There's also some awesome merch on my website, everything from shirts to coffee mugs and tote bags. All info will be at the bottom of the show notes. Now let's get back to today's episode. Okay, awesome. And I was going to ask you if you have taken immigrants and like other DACA recipients, and like your company qualifies for it, but you answered that already. By saying like you took on your parents and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the first questions I asked before I started working. Like, am I going to be able to help my community, like DACA recipients, undocumented people? Because that's at the time, that's most of my community. My parents, their friends, neighbors, family members. That's who I interact with. So, if that wasn't a yes, I wouldn't have many people to offer what I do, too. So yes, the answer was yes. And that made it easier to take on the opportunity, knowing that I could help the people that I'm surrounded by.
Great. And what are some common myths about life insurance that you maybe encountered, like other people have asked you and you're like, well, that's only like a myth? Is life insurance like only for rich people is the one that I immediately think.
Yeah, that's probably one. People think that it costs a lot more than it does. So people assume it's not affordable. The statistics out there are that people assume it's about 3 times more expensive than it actually is. So that's saying that, if a $500 policy actually costs $20, people think it's costing 60, or whatever. So they think it's more expensive. Like you said, they think that maybe only rich people can get it. And the truth is anybody can get it. That is a myth. It's not as expensive as people assume it is. I've had clients that have obtained policies that are as cheap as $10 per month. So something is always better than nothing. But
what would that get you? Like, what would $10 a month coverage get you?
I mean, it also depends on age and health.
Right. So the good, healthy guy, like my age, let's say 25.
You're young. Okay. You're really young. So it's going to be really, really not inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap, but it's inexpensive. Yeah. So let's see. I'll give you, it's hard to look at. Okay, I'll give you my numbers, for example.
Yeah, just give it.
So I'm 26 going on 27. At the time I was 25 when I applied, so it's about your age, but I'm a female, so it's less expensive for me because life expectancy for males is lower. I don't know why, reckless maybe, but males is just more expensive. So for me, $100,000 was about $11 per month. I wasn't paying much. I just paid for the whole year, in fact, because you get a bit of a discount when you pay for the whole year. So it was like $100 for the whole year. I paid it and it was $100,000. So again, it's a different type of policy, but again, something is better than nothing. I had a YCT, which is a yearly convertible term where it's the most cost efficient option, but it increases a little bit every year, like by a couple of dollars until maybe it doesn't make sense to keep it. And a 10-year term would have been better to have because the premium would have been level for 10 years, even though maybe it started at $14 per month. So I know I'm getting into
no, this is great.
What I need to be getting into, but it was something. I had something, and some of my clients need at least something, especially through the pandemic. A YCT is not a bad option because it's extra coverage you can have, or just some coverage that you could have during the pandemic because we don't know what's going on out there. So something is better than nothing, and that something could cost you $10 per month. I haven't seen that lower than 10. So I think 10 is probably the lowest we could go.
Yeah, cool. And any other myths that you want to like tell us about that you heard about?
I think.
Or if not, I'm also really curious about. Well, go ahead. I'll ask this afterwards.
Okay, I've heard a lot about like, well, why am I going to leave this for essential? People assume, and if you don't know that, it's people assume that if I was married and I had life insurance on my husband at the time, if I was married on my husband and he passes away, now I have $1 million. Well, I'm going to use this $1 million with my new significant other. And so that's a really big thing out there within the Hispanic community, that you're leaving money for your wife to spend it with her new lover, that she's going to get. And it's just really silly. So people really don't want to leave money for the wife to spend with their new lover, or the opposite, the husband
That's
to spend
so
with
petty.
their lover. Yeah,
I've not heard that one before. Wow.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, mostly in like the older community.
Yeah, I could see that getting. Yeah. Wow. It's like, I'm gonna screw you over even beyond death. Like that's so messed up.
Yeah, definitely. Another one is, let's see, maybe not a myth, but just a mentality people that, some people are in is like, well, I had to work to get to where I am. So my kids have to work to get to where they're going to get, which it's difficult to battle that one, because those people are really set in their ways. And I get it. Life was not easy for me. And I'm not saying it needs to be easy for my kids. Like, I'm not going to hand them everything. But again,
but like, you wouldn't want to put them through some of the stuff that you've been through. They need
my income. How are they going to get through life if they don't have my income?
Right.
So, I was supposed to be here to raise them. And if I'm not, then where is the money going to come from for them to eat? to go
Yeah.
to school, to buy clothes, like all of these things. So that's another one that I hear a lot. Like my child needs to struggle,
That's
and,
horrible. I
and
hate that
they
one.
sure will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are probably the big ones that I run into.
All right, cool. And let's get into because it's pretty unfortunately it's a really common thing, like scams. What
Mhm.
are some scams that you've seen out there for some people selling life insurance? Or maybe I don't even know if I'd call it like scam, maybe like misdirection, but I don't know what you would call it. But like people selling uh life insurance from not like great rated companies, or I don't know, like what are some things that you're seeing in the industry that maybe
Um,
upsets you, that gives you like a bad rep?
yeah, I could go on forever about this one, but I honestly think, okay, so I want to make sure we're on the same page here. Are we talking about like MLMs within the life
Yeah,
insurance
yeah,
industry?
you could, yeah,
Okay,
be
okay.
part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest one. MLM, so multi-level marketing, pyramid, scheme type of things really, really does burn it on my side because some people have really bad experiences, and I hate to badmouth, other people because I genuinely don't think that they know what they're doing. Like I
Hmm.
think that the hype within these companies is so big because
Yeah,
I've not that I've tried it, but I went to go take a look.
yeah.
I was curious,
Well, you got to
and
check it out, right?
yeah,
I would
yeah. So
too.
I was like, let me go see what's going on over here. And the hype was great. Um, I've met multiple people that have, gotten sucked in, and they thought the hype was great. Like they really thought they were doing something amazing. And you could be, like I'm not saying these companies are the worst, but they're just not the best. So I will kind of leave it at I don't recruit. I don't recruit. I'm not allowed to recruit. That's not my
Mm,
role. My boss is not allowed to sell products. And that's something that, really sets us aside in regards to the rest of the industry because my boss cannot offer anything. He cannot, so I'm a commission based. My boss cannot come in and help me on an appointment when I need help and say, okay, but I'm going to take 40% of your business. Like that, we
mm.
have a really, really clear line in my company anyway. So my boss can't recruit, he can't write business, he can't do anything. Like we don't mix around in regards to our roles. So that's something that I really appreciate here. I know at other companies that also don't recruit, like the agents don't recruit, they do get a chunk of their commission taken by their partners or bosses if they get helped. But on
Hmm.
my end, we don't. So I really like that. In regards to people offering products from companies that are not great, I just think that they're maybe not so, they just don't know. I think maybe they haven't been educated or properly trained. And that's kind of the thing with MLMs, that it's so fast paced. You're so busy trying to recruit that I think the education in regards to the products and what you're offering may be a bit lacking because you can't focus on that. You make more of your money by bringing people in than by offering the products and solutions to people.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to have those roles separate, in my opinion. I also think that these agents working at these companies are not fairly compensated, which is where I run into a big issue because
Mm.
people should always be fairly compensated. They start getting paid maybe like 20-30% commission, which is it's not fair at all. So they have to really work to get to 40 or 50. And you could do that. You could easily get that at one of these stronger companies right off the bat, or more
Right.
than that. So it's just, I don't think they know. I think they're so busy recruiting and they forget or they just lack the education in regards to product and pay and um, maybe standing up for yourself. I'm not sure if that's the right word. You also have to pay. So that's the biggest thing that I tell people to look out for. If somebody's
So that's a
offering you
red
a job,
flag right there.
yeah, if
Yeah.
somebody's offering you a job and they're asking you to pay them to work, huge red flag. That's not how jobs work. They have to pay you. So if anybody asks you for any money to start working or to start a business or whatever, you don't need to do that because other companies out there will pay for your exams. They'll reimburse you for your study material and then you start getting paid right away. So
Mm.
you don't have to pay anybody to do anything. But yeah, that's the big thing. If
Yeah.
they're telling you got to pay, run.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think to your point of like people just don't know. I think that's what I've seen too, is like people kind of get sold on what the company itself really is selling to the agents, and you might not even know that you could get more money from just like some like other companies where they don't take a certain percentage, like you said, right? And that's just like what people should look out for. What's like another thing that people should look out for? Like if someone messages them and like, hey, like you should get, I don't even know what the messages are, but I remember I've seen some like years ago where they tried to like DM me and get like whole life, and I'm just like, no, I'm not really in that spot right now.
So I would say that if they're DMing you, usually they don't tell you the company name. Like they kind of stay away. I don't know what the reason is for that, if they're not allowed to, or I've never
Mm,
really asked. But they won't say the company name. So always ask, oh, who do you work for?
mm,
Or like just ask questions. How much do you get paid? Who do you represent is the biggest question I would say, because for some reason they stay away from the names. And I won't name anybody right now, but just ask for the names and then do your research. And if you're truly interested in entering the field, explore your options, because just because they're offering you a job doesn't mean that you have to go with them. You can go and do other interviews elsewhere,
yeah.
talk to other people. The biggest thing is that the turnover rate within the life insurance industry is so high
Mm,
that if you really want to do it, make sure you're working with somebody that's going to take the time to educate you in regards to the products, pay you well, just spend time on you, because that's why it took me a month to get this job, because they're also making an investment in me. They're taking the time to offer these training materials. They're offering
right.
me training allowances. They're offering me benefits. They're offering me a bunch of stuff, like New York Life offers, they pay for courses at the American College. So
Yeah.
they offer us a lot of things. And so they want to make sure you're a good fit. Honestly, the first step I had to take before even obtaining the job was a personality test to make sure I was going to be a good fit. Like they have a range of people that they want to work
Yeah.
with. And if you don't fall in that range, they won't even move forward with the interview. So that's a
Mm,
huge thing. The fact that they're really careful about who they pick, they don't just take anybody. So if you're
right.
working somewhere or if you're being offered a position where they'll take anybody, it's also a red flag, because the turnover rate is so high. So if
Mm,
they're taking just anybody, they kind of expect people to fall, and not make it through.
right.
If you do make it in the process, is if they tell you, hey, you're not licensed yet. So in the meantime, while you get licensed, because it takes time to study for these exams, while you get licensed, I'm going to write the policies for your friends and family. And then when you get licensed and you bring a newbie in, you'll write their friends and family. No,
Mm,
big no, because by the time you start bringing newbies in, you could be out the door. You could be done and tired of this, because
mm.
it took you too long. You didn't pass the test. You didn't have time to study. And so
And
the
now your
person,
friends and family are like,
right, they've already maybe tried to somebody tried to recruit them because they got the opportunity to speak to the person that recruited you,
mm-hmm,
or they are now insured, and when you do get licensed, you have nobody else because all your friends and family were insured by someone else. So I would say wait, if you're in a position, at least wait until you're licensed to work with your friends and family. Don't let somebody else do it for you, because that's money you should be making. So
yeah.
those are a couple of the red flags that I feel like are unfair,
No,
for
those are
the
great. Yeah, no, those are great.
families.
That's what I've seen some of those too. And you brought up some new ones as well to my attention.
Yeah.
What were some, and you might have mentioned some of these, but were some challenges that you faced throughout your career, or maybe you're still facing, and how have you overcome or working to overcome those?
Man, whenever I found out what I was doing, I didn't really understand it, but the first thing I thought was, oh my God, I know so many people. This is gonna be so easy. Like I
This is
could
gonna
just
be
go
so
to
easy.
yeah, like I'm just gonna go talk to my mom, my dad, their friends, and neighbors. And no, I could not have been more wrong. It was not easy. Because people don't want to talk about it, like
Yeah.
they're just not open about it. So I mean, I was very glad and lucky to have people that did want to listen to me. They were open to just having these conversations, but not everybody. Like I've still got people that I'm reaching out to, that I started reaching out to when I started. And 3 years later, I'm still saying, hey, we remember we said we were going to sit down to talk about this, and no, nothing's happened yet. And the reason why I'm still trying is because these are people I care about, and I don't want to be in a position where something happens to this person and I didn't try my best to try to help them, because if something happens and they didn't have anything in place, at least I did my part. Now it was kind of in their court to take action or make a decision. So if I just give up, then something happens to them. I'm going to hate myself for not trying harder, for not approaching them again, saying, let's try. So that kind of would suck a lot. I don't want to be in that position. It's always a roller coaster. So some months are really good, some months are really bad, and it's commission based, 100% commission. So it has an ups and downs, because that means I can work when I want to and not work when I don't want to. But if I don't work, I don't make money. So that's the big thing. I feel so blessed to be able to do something that, I feel like I'm making a difference. I feel like I'm helping people. I haven't been in the situation to pay out a death benefit, which I don't really want to be in that situation, because it's going to be heartbreaking. I don't know how I'm going to get through it, honestly, but I know if I am in that position, I'm going to make a huge difference in somebody's life or their family's lives. So it's, once I do help people, it makes it all worth it, even the bad months and the good weeks and, all of the bad stuff. Learning, I always have to be learning. Like if I don't have an answer, I'm always on Google, like, what does this mean? Or on my company portal, researching things, or somebody asked me about this, so I have to go, educate myself because I'm not sure what this is, or going on the Vital Signs website and checking the company records and comparing mine to this other company that somebody mentioned they had. So I always have to stay on top of making sure that I'm learning. And a lot of changes did go into effect into our industry, the regulations in 2020. So always staying on top of it and making sure I'm educating myself. I guess that's pretty much it. Staying educated. And then always staying on top of it. So if I ever slow down, I know that it may not affect me right now, but it's going to affect me in a month, because I wasn't dropping seeds, planting seeds for future business. So it is a roller coaster, but I've learned a lot. I've learned how to stay on top of it, which I think is good.
Is that also why you're just so passionate about it? It's just also because you want to help the community as much?
Yeah. I would say that, again, I don't want to be in a situation where I could have helped somebody and then not have helped them. So that's probably the biggest thing. I think that the education may be a little bit lacking. It's getting better with us, the next generation coming up, but there's still a lot, like I still have a lot of work left to do. Like I might have insured you, but what about your mom and dad? Can you take the financial hit of losing your mom and dad, our parents, because I couldn't. And that was a big struggle. My dad did not want life insurance. He did not want it. He was so against it. He didn't really never said why, but he just did not want to do it. So it took me months, and I finally had it. I told him, hey, Dad, you know what? I don't know what your deal is, but if you pass away, I'm the oldest of 4, and I'm, first generation. I'm the one that takes care of the paperwork for everything, looks into, like, I do everything for my family, So I won't say everything. My parents definitely do enough, but
I get what you mean. Believe me.
So I told them, I was like, what am I going to do if you die? I don't have the money to pay for your final expenses. Like, my siblings, they're all younger than me. They don't have the money. They're in school. 2 of them are in school. One of them is a Marine far away. She doesn't get paid much. So what are we going to do? I would rather pay for your final expenses now, month to month, through a life insurance policy than all at once when you pass away, whether it's tomorrow, 10 years, or in 30 years. I don't want to be put in that situation. So you said no, I say yes, but what we're going to do is you're going to sign the paper. You're going to show up for the medical exam. You're going to answer the medical questionnaire. I'm going to pay for it, because I'm going to have to pay for it either way if you don't have it. And so he said, okay, fine. He was okay with that. And then my mom got onto him and said, you're not going to make me pay for it. You're going to pay for it. So that was that. Now he's got a policy in place. My dad, we did go the permanent route because he's not old, but he's older. But my parents do eventually plan on retiring in Mexico. So I know that they'll eventually outlive a term. and they won't be able to get more because they won't be in the States. So for them, they're all set. I think a huge benefit that my mom really liked about a permanent policy, it's a small one, like it's not millions of dollars, but the policy will pay for itself. So when they are in Mexico and they don't have the funds to pay for this in dollars, because they'll be living over there and not making as much, is that the policy eventually between year 15 and 20 will have sufficient funds to just pay for itself, and the policy will be in place forever and they won't be paying for it. So we did go the permanent route for them. And it just made it easier for us. So now he's all set, we're set forever to pay for his final expenses, because he wanted this giant party. He wanted a mariachi at his funeral. He wants to be sent back to Mexico if he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Buried at home. And I was like, this costs money. I don't have that money. So we need to have that money.
You're just like adding up all the costs. You're like, mariachi, like
yeah, it's expensive. So I told him, and he said, okay, fine. We can do it. And we did it. So I don't want to be put in a place where I just know I could help somebody and not help them. That would suck. And it's hard sometimes because sometimes people don't listen. Like I post a lot on social media and I don't get a lot of engagement, but I know people see it, because a few months down the road, they'll come back to me and say, hey, I saw that you're the person that does this, or you're the person, I saw that you used to do this. Do you still do this? And so even though I don't get engagement, I'm okay with that. I've made my
putting it in people's mind
with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I know that people see what I do, and, it's in the back of their minds, and they can come back when they're ready. So, activity is huge, just staying on top of it and making sure people know that, I'm the person that can help them out with this when they're ready, because when they're ready, I'll be here to help them.
Right. Yeah. And do you have yourself have a policy, right?
Yes,
I'm curious about like what you have covered, if you want to
so I have about $1 million in coverage, and I've got different types of policies. So I do have a couple of term policies, and then I have some permanent policies. Again, the permanent policy, not an investment, whole life is not an investment, but I really do like the option that it can pay for itself. So it is going to cost me a bit more upfront. But down the line, when that cash value does start to accumulate, I'll break even with what I paid, which means it cost me nothing. And then it starts to pay for itself. So then I don't have to worry about paying for it after about 15 to 20 years. It's just going to do its thing. And I'll make sure that I'm covered for my entire life, whether I pass away tomorrow or age 99. I have my term policies. I've got a 20-year policy and a 10-year policy. 10 years, I think, is about like $250. Maybe my 20-year policy is $500,000, and that's just because I want long-term protection. I don't have kids, I don't have a house right now, but when I do have those things, I want to make sure that I locked in my health rating of 25 years old. So I was young, healthier, and it cost me less to lock it in then than to come back and apply for these things now or in 5 years when I do have a house and kids.
That's interesting. So why would you have like a 10 and a 20 as opposed to like just a 20? Because
the plan for the 10, so with New York Life, the policies are convertible. So you can convert them to permanent policy. So my plan is that if I need to convert something, I'm going to convert my 10 and not convert my 20. I'm just going to leave my 20 there forever. And if I do need my 10 to move it towards permanent in the future, if I wanted to, I'm paying less for it now. And then it makes the conversion easier because I don't have to go through blood work anymore or anything like that.
Thinking ahead. Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah. So all of my policies have a reason, they all have something in place, and layering is something that we do a lot here in New York Life. So you don't have to have just one policy. You can have more than one. So some clients, have 15 years to pay on their house, but they have a 2-year-old kid. So maybe a 15-year policy for the amount of their mortgage would be good. And then another 20-year policy would be good for their kid, to supplement income, to pay for their college because they're 2. So that gives them till the child is, what is that? 22. Mm-hmm. So they can all serve their different purposes. And sometimes it saves people money by layering, because you don't have to throw everything in a 20-year, 30-year policy. You can throw it into, depending on your needs, if you have 10 years to pay on your house, put that amount in the 10 years and it's going to save you money, because not everything is in the big, lengthy policy. So in 10 years, when you're done paying your house, you can let go of that policy and then your premium will be reduced and you don't have the same need for the full million anymore, whatever the case may be. So it saves people money. Sometimes people need to reduce their bills. And if you have two policies, maybe you'll double think getting rid of both of them. Like, oh, well, I had two, so I'll get rid of one to lower my bills because something happened, and I'll keep the other one. So that's also something that we think people benefit from, like COVID. People had to, reduce a lot of their spending, when we didn't know what was happening, and we had to stop working a bit, and people lost jobs. So they had some of our clients had the opportunity to let go of maybe one or two of their policies, but not the third, or let go of one, but not the second, and have something in place, keep something in place. It just kind of provides a little bit of a backup just in case.
Yeah, no, those are some great gems that you're dropping. I don't know. Like when I think life insurance, I always think about like what when people don't want to get it and stuff. And I think, and I see how the rise of like GoFundMe has been like a popular alternative. Like it just sucks because like it shouldn't even have to be like people shouldn't even have to set up like a GoFundMe. Like people should just have something as like in place, right, that would cover those expenses. And that's why like I just think it's important to just have that at least.
Yeah, I think that it sucks because a GoFundMe, if you have to do it, you have to do it. But also you kind of have to hope that it either goes viral or reaches enough friends to get what you need, that your friends are in the position to make donations. Maybe you don't even have a lot of friends on Facebook. So how are you going to get, texting it to people? How are you going to get that in front of people? Like you're depending on others to pay for those costs that you should have taken care of. And it doesn't have to cost you a lot to have it in place. So that's kind of, and of course, GoFundMe takes their cut of the money too. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, why put your family in that situation? Like grief is already something so hard to go through.
Yeah.
It's not fair to also add financial stress on top of that, because and here's the thing I tell people, if you can't afford a life insurance policy, you can't afford to die. Like if you cannot afford 10 to 20 bucks per month paying towards this, how is your family going to be able to afford losing your income? So those people that truly believe they cannot afford life insurance are the people that need to scrape and find the funds to pay for a life insurance policy, because without you, they're like, that your family really cannot get by. So if you can't afford it, you need it the most.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are some, just to end it off here, like what are some ways that you decompress and just feel inspired, your best self, just to deal with everything, from the challenges that come with being a DACA recipient to your career?
Yeah, so COVID taught me that I can work anywhere, which I love. So I do work anywhere, in Florida, in Texas. The last 2 summers I spent in California with my sister. So getting away really helps, changing it up a bit. Just, right now I'm in Pennsylvania and out by a lake and it's cold. I can't go out much, but it's beautiful. Just looking and changing up the scene a bit, it really helps. I've got 2 dogs, so taking them out for walks really helps a lot too. Drawing, reading, just getting out of my computer screen and getting away from work, because it's hard, especially in the industry that I'm in. We do hear about people dying, and we're just basically, my job is all around the topic of death. So getting to step away a little bit and just doing my own thing really helps. Like even if I have to go to California, I can't go much further than the coast to coast, but I go where I can.
Take advantage of that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So before we get into where people can follow your work and reach out to you, is there any other thing that maybe we didn't cover that you'd like to communicate with the audience at this point?
I think, the whole thing was about life insurance. So just really get it, look into it, at least talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be me. It can be the last agent that contacted you, because maybe an agent did contact you. Do your research, make sure that you're looking into the types of policies out there. You're looking into the companies that are offering you these types of policies. If you do have life insurance, please get a second look at it, because I've seen some bad policies out there. So make sure that you're just always doing, even if it's my policy I wrote, go do your research. I'm confident in the people that I'm helping and what I'm offering them, but it's never a bad idea to get a second look at the policy.
Do you do second looks? Like, do
I
people come to
do,
you and you
yeah.
like look into their, okay.
Yeah, so I have a couple of policies I'm taking a second look at this upcoming week, actually, and just look at what you've got in place, make sure that, that's it. That's all. I don't like to badmouth companies, but just make sure you're taking a look at what you have in place, the type of policy, the company you're working with, and if your agent is still around, that if they are, and it's been a few years, that's great. If they're not, then maybe that's something, to look at, like, why aren't they around anymore? So definitely take a look at all of that stuff. And if you don't have anything in place, just go look. Yep. A big company, a nice, strong company, and something is better than nothing. It's not expensive. It's really can be really as low as $10-15 per month. And just do it, because your family does not deserve to be in that situation of stressing financially. It's just really important that this gets taken care of, and it's not just for the rich, life insurance, you're just buying money. Like, it's crazy that you can buy money and that people don't take more advantage of this, because the rich people out here will put millions of dollars on each other in life insurance, make sure that they're going to be well off, not just final expenses paid for, but well off if somebody were to pass away. So, buy money. It makes not just you, but make sure your parents are insured. Make sure that, you're not going to be in a financial bind if your parents pass away, and that your kids are not going to be in a financial bind if you pass away, because that's probably what's going to happen if you don't have life insurance.
Yeah. Okay. And great. And where can people follow your work, support you, and get in touch with you if they're interested in you either taking a look at their policy or opening up one with you, or just have questions in general?
Yeah, so I do post most of my content on my Facebook business page. So that's probably the best place to look up, what I'm doing and what I offer and the information I put out there. The next place is going to be Clubhouse. I've been doing some rooms in Clubhouse, and it's been nice to be able to just talk about things and have people come in and answer or ask questions, and I'll answer their questions. And so I love that. And then also I've been trying to get more active on Instagram, but it's slow, but it's happening. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is by booking an appointment on Calendly. I don't know if people have used that website, but calendly.com/YYANEZ. You can access my calendar directly on Calendly and just pick a time that works best for you, because I know sometimes the hard part of meeting is trying to figure out a time that works for you and works for me, and coordinating our calendars. So this is the best way I found to meet with people. They can just access my entire calendar and pick a time that they're free, and, we'll meet. I'll send you a Zoom link. It's all virtual. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Sometimes I just review policies. I just tell you about your options. I don't really pressure people into anything, because if they can't, they have to come to that decision on their own. I'm not going to force anybody into doing anything, but I'll tell you what your options are. So Calendly, I would say, is the easiest way to access my calendar and getting a word in. Yeah.
All right, great. And I'll have all that information in the show notes as well, so people can just see like the usernames and all that. So
yeah,
thank you so much for coming on the Leo podcast here and just dropping some gems that we can all, that we all need. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you too for everything that you do. I've always seen the topics that you're throwing out there, and it's amazing. You're like a book of knowledge, I'm sure.
I try to be. I'm so curious about everything that I just consume, and I love it when I get the opportunity to bring on people that are experts in a specific field like yours, because I just touch like every subject, but I'm not like a book of knowledge in one subject, so I always love bringing people that are in that matter, because I always learn something new, and so does the audience. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and a follow on Spotify. It helps me tremendously in order to bring more awareness and educational resources to our community. For more information and to stay up to date with what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram at LatinaAmericaneo. And if you need more information and resources, you can visit my website, LatinaAmericaneo.org. I'm Kevin Munoz. This has been the Leo Podcast, and I'll see you next time. This podcast is not investment advice, and I am not a qualified licensed investment advisor. All information on here, including any ideas, opinions, views, predictions, forecasts, commentaries, suggestions, or stock picks expressed or implied are for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only and should not be construed as personal investment advice. Conduct your own due diligence or consult a licensed financial advisor or broker before making any and all investment decisions. Any investments, trades, speculations, or decisions made on the basis of any information found on this podcast, expressed or implied, are committed at your own risk, financial or otherwise.